men, thank you. Well, that's a demonstration of 3 men trying to do jobs they're not fitted for. Does that mean there's something wrong with these men? No, of course not. Sergeant Brown can't thread a needle, but he's a damn good squad leader. Corporal Nelson isn't a weightlifter, but he's awful handy with that bazooka. And you know what kind of a soldier Private Scott is. We all have limitations of one kind or another, and we each have different abilities. There are some things we can do better than other things. Now, everybody knows that, but most people forget about it when it comes to making one of the most important decisions in their lives. I mean, choosing a job. Now, sometime in the future, we'll all be facing that decision again. And it's not too early to start thinking about it now, because the Army's going to give us a chance to get some real job training. To get the most out of this training, we've got to decide what kind of a job we want to train for. Now, for some of us, the job problem's pretty simple. The man had a job, he liked it, he's going back to it. He's all set. But there are some of us who didn't like the job we had, want a different kind of a job. And some of us never had any job at all. If you're going to be looking for a new job, you want to look for the right one. All right. How do you go about deciding what's right for you? Well, the Army had that problem with you when you first came in. Only they had 10 million other guys to worry about, too. 10 million men and 10 million jobs to be done in a hurry. They had to get the right man in the right job. How did they do it? By classifying each man. Earlier in the morning, this guy's name was Mr. George Barnes. Right now, it's just, hey, you. Barnesy didn't know anything about the Army, and that made it a draw, because the Army didn't know anything about him. He was just another guy. After he got his uniform, he looked like all the other yardbirds in the world. But then suddenly, the Army wanted to know Barnes better. In fact, they wanted to know all about him. They asked him what schools he'd been to, and what jobs he'd had. What were his hobbies, and what sports did he like? They tested his ability to learn, and his mechanical aptitude. And here's Barnesy, all written down on paper. AGO Form 20, Private Barnes. 2 years high school, mechanical aptitude well over average. Occupation, electrician. Hobby, building radio sets. Well, they decided to send Barnes to radio school for further training. And he wound up in a signal repair depot somewhere in England fixing radios. He did a good job, and he liked doing it. Well, that's the system the Army used for getting the right men in the right job. Sure, there were snafus, plenty of them. Some men who were classified correctly were assigned to jobs they knew nothing about because of military necessity. But that's not the fault of the military classification system. Actually, it's a pretty good system, and you can use it yourself if you give it a little thought. You've only got one man to classify, and you know him pretty well to start with. I'm not an expert on this kind of stuff, but I've been studying up on it, and it makes pretty damn good sense. It's just a matter of matching up the right man, that's you, with the right job. That's the job you can do best. But first, you've got to know yourself. Okay, how do you go about it? Well, you start the way the Army did, by examining your past experience and training. What have you done? Did you have a job before the war? Did you like it? What about your military experience? You know, you may have learned a new skill. The Army has trained a lot of men in skills that are needed in civilian life. Welding and sheet metal work, for instance. And many civilian jobs are similar to Army jobs. A navigator on a B-17 could do the same job on a transatlantic liner. A radio operator could get into airport control work. A man that ran a bulldozer in New Guinea could certainly run one on a construction job in Michigan. In many cases, the changeover won't be so clear-cut. But before you leave the service, you'll be given a list of the civilian jobs that are related to the job you had in the Army. You know, every man in the service has had valuable job experience. He's learned how to accept responsibility and how to work together with other people. Your past experience may not give you the complete answer to your job problem. All right. The next question is, what are you capable of doing? It sounds like a tough one, doesn't it? Well, it isn't, if you look for the right clues. Examine your hobbies, for instance. Now, take the guy who's a fixer, likes to repair lamps and take alarm clocks apart. Maybe he's good at it. Well, most of the time he's good at it. Anyway, it's a tip-off on what kind of work he likes to do. Now, this fellow builds model planes that he designs himself. Good mechanical ability plus some originality. There's a clue to what he likes and could probably do successfully. This looks like a pretty silly way to spend your time, doesn't it? Well, maybe it is. But even here, there's a clue. There are some highly paid jobs that require the same kind of patience and precision. Everybody doesn't have a hobby, but we've all gone to school at some time or other. What did you learn? What were you good at? Math, shop work, chemistry, English? There are a lot of clues right there. Of course, the best way to find out what you're capable of doing is by tryout. But you don't want to do it by trying out job after job. That's a waste of time and energy. There are other ways. Taking an aptitude test is one way. These tests indicate a man's ability in a special kind of work. And you'll have a chance to take more of them before you leave the Army. The Army education program is a great opportunity for a tryout. During the time you're learning the job, you'll have a chance to find out how well you can do it. The answers to these questions would give you a pretty good balance sheet on yourself. You'll know what kind of work you can do and what you shouldn't try to do. Okay. What else do you have to know? Well, you have to know something about the jobs in your field. You've all heard kids talk about what they want to be when they grow up.
I want to be a policeman. I want to be a soldier. They have more fun than anybody. Boy, I want to be a soldier.
That's funny when a kid does it, but it's not so funny when a guy in long pants does the same thing. A lot of men decide to study law because they want to make dramatic speeches in front of a jury. That's only a small part of a lawyer's work. Most of the time, he's chained to his desk, studying volumes of books, looking up cases, writing out briefs. Some of these people are going to waste a lot of time and money preparing for a job they don't really want. You should find out all you can about the jobs you're interested in. Exactly what is the work? What are the working conditions? Outdoors or indoors? Do you sit down or do you stand on your feet all day? Then, what does the job offer? What's the salary? What are the chances for advancement? And last, what are the job opportunities? Now, that's important. You've heard people say any American kid can grow up to be president of the United States. Well, that's true, but it's a bad bet because there's only one job in the field. That's an extreme example. But in some job fields, the picture is almost as bad. Some industries need only a few workers. Others are overcrowded. They have more workers than they can use. Unless you're very highly skilled, it's not smart to buck up against that kind of competition. Don't get the idea that there's only one job in the world that's right for you, because that isn't so. Once you've decided what field you should go into, you'll find there are quite a few different jobs in that field that you could probably do equally well. Naturally, you'll want to pick the one with the best opportunities. And that's where this column comes in handy. But you'll need help to answer these questions. Well, the Army's going to try to give it to you. In the Army education program, there'll be a course in career planning for those who want it. That course will give you a good idea of the job requirements and job possibilities in various fields. Then later, at your separation centers, just before you leave the Army, you'll have a chance to talk to a vocational guidance counselor. Now, he can give you some good professional advice. There'll be a representative of the United States Employment Service there. He'll have all the latest information on the job situation in your field. You'll also be told about the agencies in your own hometown that can help you get the job you want. Now remember, there's no magic formula for getting a job, but there is a common sense way to go about it. By classifying yourself, you can decide what field of work you should go into. And by learning about the jobs in that field, you can decide specifically which one you should try to get. Now, if you plan sensibly, and use all the help that's available, you should have the odds working for you. Of course, you've got to take advantage of those odds. First, you've got to do your share in getting the job. And after you've got it, you've got to hold it by your own hard work. You can begin on this right away. Get in front of a mirror and take a look. A good look. The man you'll see there can answer a lot of your questions. Okay, man, that's all. Give it some thought.
Salesman, miner, teller, clerk, welder, printer, train man, cook, rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief, doctor, lawyer, merchant.
Get in front of a mirror and take a look.
Hiya, Joe.
A good look. The man you'll see there can answer a lot of your questions.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Go ahead. Ask me something. What's the matter? You scared? This is the same old face you've been shaving every morning. Yeah, but it never talked back to me before. Well, it's a pretty good idea, so you better get used to it. Look at me, I'm talking to myself. Never mind about that. Say, you can't sleep. What's eating you? Well, I'm worried. I gotta get a job when I get home. Well, you heard what the lieutenant said, didn't you? Yeah, but I didn't get the answer. What's my next job gonna be? Hey, wait a minute, not so fast. That's the $64 question. What kind of jobs you been thinking about? I've been thinking about all kinds of jobs. I've been going nuts. That's the way to go nuts, all right. I'm ashamed even to be a reflection of a guy like you. Well, I was thinking about the bank. Dad knows Mr. Johnson, the chief teller. The bank. You'd like sitting in a cage all day counting other people's money, wouldn't you? No, I wouldn't like it, but okay, forget it. Well, what about Jim? He's got a swell job with the insurance company. Well, Jim's my brother-in-law. Yeah, I know. Huh? Oh, yeah, sure. Well, if he could sell insurance, why couldn't I? Because you're not Jim. Why didn't you listen when the lieutenant was talking this afternoon? I was listening. I was listening my head off, but I didn't get the answer. Well, I can see I'm going to have to take you by the hand. You see what it says there? What have you done? Okay, what have you done? Well, you worked in a grocery store, didn't you? And you drove a truck for the Acme Steel Company. Well, didn't you? Yes, I did. But I don't want to work in a grocery store, and I didn't like driving that truck. Fine, now we're getting someplace. Grocery clerk and truck driver. Now then, military experience. Just put down yes. No. That means what was your job? Well, you weren't a tank driver, were you? Or a P-38 pilot? No, and I wasn't a 3-star general either. All right, wise guy, just answer the questions. You know the answer. I've been nursing sick motors for 2 years. Okay. Military experience? Mechanic. And a pretty good one, too. Gee, thanks, pal. Now then, what are you capable of doing? Well, I still don't see why I couldn't sell insurance. Jim does all right at it. Look, Jim's a live wire, and he's got a gift of gab. You haven't, so forget it. Oh, what could I do? It says here hobbies. What about hobbies? Well, I used to raise pigeons when I was a kid. Anything else? What about that bookcase you built? And those shelves in the kitchen? Yeah, I used to fool around with a hammer and saw. Fine. Carpentry. Now then, school experience. What's that mean? That means that you flunked English 3 times and got through bookkeeping by the skin of your teeth. Yeah, but I got good marks in shop. Okay, we'll remember that. And the last one's tryout. You've already had some of that. Yeah, when? You remember that aptitude test you took back at the reception center? That was a tryout of your mechanical ability, and you made a good score. That's right. Look, I know all this. Why don't you tell me something new? Sure you know it, but you don't know how to add it up. Now, let's just see what we've got here. Joe Daly, T5. Had a job as a grocery clerk and a truck driver. Didn't like either one of them. Army experience, motor maintenance. Liked that job and got a rating for it. Hobbies, carpentry. School experience, flunked English, good at shop work. High score in mechanical aptitude. General intelligence level, about average. Well, there you are, my friend. Okay, so I'm a big dope. I flunked English and I'm not very smart. What do you want me to do? Shoot myself? No. Look at yourself. Okay. Now, you didn't like this, and you didn't like this. But look at this. And this. And this. And look at this. Now then, what do you think that kind of a guy ought to be doing? Selling insurance? Okay, okay. Looks like I ought to be doing something with my hands. Something mechanical. Step to the head of the class. Yeah, but what? Well, you were an auto mechanic in the Army. You liked it and you were good at it. Yeah, but they're not going to keep the war going just so I can tune up Jeeps. Seems to me I used to see a lot of automobiles in civilian life. Oh, that's right. Say maybe, sure, why not? You know what I'd really like to do is get a job in an automobile factory. Now you're cooking. Yeah, I could go places in a job like that. Of course, I'd have to know a lot more about it than I do now. Well, what about the Army job training program? You could start learning right away. That's right. Then I'd be ready to go to work as soon as I get home. Only I wonder if they'll be hiring people in automobile factories. What do you think? That's over here in the Know the Jobs department. Yeah, but what about it? Will they need good mechanics? Sorry, pal, this is where I get off. Hey, wait a minute. I want to know something about the job. What's it pay? What are the chances? Those questions over there. I can't help you with those. Don't you remember what the lieutenant said? Well, you're a fine wise guy. I thought you had all the answers. Not all of them. After all, I'm no smarter than you are. Yeah, but I gotta have those answers. Sure you do. But you gotta get help on that stuff. You can't do it all by yourself. Now get into this vocational training program. Get some training and some good advice. Then check with the advisors before you get out of the Army so you've got the latest dope. But what are these advisors and where are they? They're the fellows who have got the latest information on where the jobs are and how you'll fit into them. They're not around here. No, but they'll be at the separation center back in the States. And after you're out of the Army, the Veterans Administration and the United States Employment Service and the Civil Service Commission will take over where these separation center guys left off. All you've got to do is ask for it and pay attention. Get it? Okay, kid. Keep pitching. You're on the right track. That's a fine thing. You get me all steamed up and then you run out on me. After you get the dope, look me up again. I'm always around. Hey, wait a minute. How do I get you? Same way you did this time. It's all done with mirrors. Hey, wait a minute. It is all done with mirrors.